All right. All right, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, classes in session. Geophysical and hypnotic influence on observed astrological correlations. Who knows what categories I should have put them in, but I put it in arts and physics. And this is, well, I just said, right? Didn't I just read that? Geophysical and hypnotic influence on observed astrological correlations. And what I'm simply going to do, folks, is to read through. That's right. It's a read through. It's amore. So we're going to read through this real quick. And let's see. Oh, yeah. If you want to look up the article right away to read along, it's on HypnoAthletics.com. And that's hypno like hypnosis, athletics, just like how it sounds, the word athletics, all one word. And you'll just search geophysics, and you'll find not only the blog post for April 1st of 2012, so it seems like it's some kind of April Fool's joke, but it's also uh, it also has a downloadable version of the article about geophysics and astrology. And, well, what else am I to do except for read this, as I said? And it's from April 1st, 2012, by me. It says by Hakeem Alexander. And the actual title here on the website is HypnoAthletics, Possible Geophysical and Hypnotic Influences on Observed Correlations in Astrology. All right, many of you don't know my sense of humor, but that, well, because scientific articles sound like that, they have these really long drawn out names sometimes because they're being very descriptive, which is fine, but it's also amusing to me. And so that this doesn't take 10 years, I better start reading right away. And as I usually open up with my tagline, exercising your mind. Here we go. All right. Maybe I should I'm gonna take a sip of something first because I'm gonna be having a hold on, I don't want to cough into the mic. But I've got to hydrate because I'm going to be reading it. It's a bit dry in the monastery. A little dry and super quiet. All right. So here it here it goes. Astrology has been a divination tool used for thousands of years by many cultures around the world. It is a system that claims to predict an individual's personality characteristics and life events. Astrology bases its predictions on the positions of the sun, moon, and other planetary objects at the time a person is born. These predictions about a person's life, divined through astrology, are most likely based on collecting observations of personality traits associated with the time of birth. I didn't provide, like, what do they call it, an abstract? Yeah, I didn't provide an abstract for this article. So, well, already I'm seeing how, well, never mind. I'm just going to read it. I thought it would be interesting to look into what astrology's predictions might have to do with a unique combination of the intensity of sunlight, temperature, latitude, either north of, south of, or on the equator, and whether it is day or night when one is born. It is no far stretch of the imagination to think that seasonal changes and variations in sunlight may have significant effects on personality and behavior. I think that's the main theme of the entire uh, article that I wrote. Is that, I mean, I could probably sum it up right there. It is no far stretch of the imagination to think that seasonal changes and variations in sunlight may have significant effects on personality and behavior. Why did I write this? And it is so long. Oh boy. All right, so we've got it's the full name is different from the one that's here on the app. Let's see what I'm. Looks like a couple people stopped by. Hello, Stanley Camacho and Graciela. What am I? What did I do? Oh yeah, so the name I put it here on the Wisdom app is just geophysical and hypnotic influence on observed astrological correlations. As if that's not a mouthful enough as it is, right? But then the article that I published on April 1st, 2012 on my website, HypnoAthletics, says HypnoAthletics, possible geophysical and hypnotic influences on observed correlations in astrology. I guess it's not that much shorter, the abbreviated version that I put on Wisdom here, is it now? All right, well, let's tag along here if you're crazy enough to sit and listen to me read this very long, dry, and boring article, which is also on researchgate.net, by the way, um, which I have to look at right now because I just closed the other window. And oh yeah, so I can view full text on ResearchGate and I can read it from there. Oh wow, it's really nicely formatted. Like a crazy person wrote it. No, I have to open back up on the website because this is oh, there we go. It was already open. Okay, let's do it. All right, continuing. In fact, there is a diagnosis that can be made of certain individuals called seasonal affective disorder, SAD. I have a little one there because I referenced something. SAD is more commonly experienced by women than men and in areas that have longer winters and less yearly sunlight. In addition to this, behavioral, physical, and mental changes have been studied in response to changes in environmental light and darkness, biological clocks, and circadian rhythms, and the science of chronobiology. Such an exciting name. Chronobiology, huh? All right. The biology of time. Let's continue. And wow, there's already 3 references just in that one paragraph. For SAD is 1, and circadian rhythms is 2, and chronobiology is 3. How many references did I put in this article? All right. As you may know, the sun is a star. Duh. The word astro is related to the Greek word aster, which means star. In the context of my hypothesis, then, this study is still astrology in the most literal sense of the word, because I am studying the effects of a star, our sun, and its effects on human behavior. The suffix ology being a branch of knowledge, study, or science. Look at me being so academic. Another major component of this project is hypnosis, or the study of the hypnotic power of suggestion. As a clinical hypnotist, I have been researching and applying the power of suggestion to resolve many problems that I am presented with. Hypnotic suggestions have proven to be very powerful influencers of belief systems and human behavior. I'm starting to get the idea that I should probably read almost every broadcast, podcast, social room, or everything, or any audio that I record because it keeps me so much more focused. Hmm, Go figure. Geophysics. There are several different natural cycles that influence the weather on Earth. Here, I will do my best to understand and then summarize my comprehension to get an idea of a few mechanisms involved in determining the changes we experience through our planet's diverse climates. This almost sounds like a respectable article that I wrote. The word geo comes from the word Gaia, which is a Greek word. Who actually wrote this? It surprises me. sometimes. The word geo comes from the word Gaia, which is a Greek word for earth. And the word physics is also Greek from the word physikos, which means pertaining to nature. These words certainly have earlier origins than Greek. I am just limiting the etymological or source research of the words to avoid a discussion that will lead us too far off the main point. See, look at I'm already putting restrictions on myself in writing. Can you imagine how much less I'm able to control myself when I'm not? That's why I keep myself to a script in my rooms. Hello, everybody. Cicely Marie Goose, Bhupinder, Keisha Coy, Nikita Grant, Noble Ron, Sharente Carr, Jason Kinte, Jason B., Graciela Moore, and Stanley Camacho, whether in the room or just passing through, thank you for gracing the Wisdom Halls. Monique Duell. All right, let's continue reading um, this very what can I say about it? Long paper that I wrote, which by the way is available on eym.hypnoathletics.com, or you can simply type in hypnoathletics.com. That's HYPNO, N as in nickel, NOATHLETICS. That's right, hypnoathletics.com. And all you have to do is type in the search engine geophysics, or maybe astrology, whatever word has its spelling more certainly embedded into your brains, then you can type that in and you'll find it. Because I didn't see a place to put links. I mean, but would you really want to read this? I'm already reading it, right? Let's see. What did I? Yeah, I read geophysics, da 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 da. Yep, yep. And I said that will lead us too far off the main point. Good. So right, let me get back on the main point, which is geophysics is a broad-ranging subject. However, I will be narrowing the focus of geophysics to Earth's natural environment in space and its relationship with the sun specifically. Gosh, I'm trying to resist the temptation to make commentary after every short paragraph, but it's so difficult. The purposes of organization and study. Oh, wait, no, no. For purposes of organization and study, astronomers use a pole star, the North Star or Polaris, which our North Pole is conveniently pointing to in modern times. The South Pole is exactly opposite the North Pole. This is used as a guide in charting the position of Earth in its space environment and for celestial navigation. Seriously, though, if you're going to be listening to this, either the recording or live, you should go to hypnoathletics.com and type in astrology or geophysics and find the blog post article that also has a PDF download called HypnoAthletics: Possible Geophysical and Hypnotic Influences on Observed Correlations in Astrology. Or if you feel like going on a treasure hunt, you can go to researchgate.net and you can find it there too, where all kinds of people put scientific sounding articles and things like that. Some of them actually have to do something with science. Hmm. Continuing after celestial navigation. Here we go. Because of this polar orientation, the Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees towards the Sun at the North Pole, as if there was actually a pole running through it at this point. The Earth spins like a top fixed on this axis of rotation as it orbits the Sun. Imagine an enormous sphere surrounding an area using Earth's orbit as its diameter, made of movie screen material. This is known as the celestial sphere. The shadow that the Earth would eclipse out along its path of orbit around the Sun is known as the, drumroll please, ecliptic. Since the Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees from the ecliptic, its equator is also, and if a beam were shining out from this onto the giant movie screen sphere, it would trace out a path called the celestial equator. The equinoxes would be when the sun is at the point where these two paths meet at 23.5 degrees from the north and south poles on the celestial sphere opposite each other, while the solstices would be when the sun is along the celestial equator on east and west opposites of Earth's equator relative to the poles. I'm not going to read that again, even though I didn't read it correctly the first time, because my own writing is making my head spin, uh, which means I need an editor. Any volunteers? Any volunteers to edit? You can read it on HypnoAthletics.com. Exercising your mind. All right, let me continue here. Summer and winter solstices. Oops, sorry for hitting the microphone. I wonder how hot that sounds, if it sounds like a big drum being beaten. Summer on the day, I gotta tell you, this is not even a quarter of the way down. I'm scrolling through my mobile. In late June, on the day of the summer solstice, Earth's, maybe I should read this in a calm and soothing voice, so that at least maybe you'll have it in the background when you're trying to relax, or you just want something sounding academic in the background with a soothing voice while you relax and do something else completely different, paying no attention to what I'm saying at all, except for every once in a while when something interesting pops out into your, right? So let's do that. Let's see. In late June, on the day of the summer solstice, Earth's northern hemisphere is angled or inclined towards the sun, which is at its farthest point north during the year. Because of this, the sunlight shines almost straight down at northern latitudes. This can be thought of like the ground being hit by the sunlight at a 95 to 100-degree angle. In the southern hemisphere, the sunlight is more dispersed because it strikes the ground at a much wider angle. This could be imagined as an angle of 145 to 150 degrees. You know, speaking like that is tiring. Like a singer, you need to warm the voice up before you start speaking in these low, soothing tones for long periods of time. All right, listeners, let me continue here. Oh, I wonder if you can hear me. This is having problems loading right here as I was trying to look into the room to see who's there. And all I'm seeing are purple concentric circles. And that's fine. I'm going to go back to the, oh boy, things aren't working the way I want to, but that's okay. We'll work around it. Here we go. Hmm. In the southern hemisphere, the sunlight shines almost straight down, just like it was for the northern hemisphere during summer solstice. The major causes of weather changes are due to the sun moving through the solstices and their midpoints, the equinoxes. Equinox. When spring begins, approximately March 20th, the lengths of day and night are approximately equal, and it is known as the vernal equinox. In the northern hemisphere, this marks a midpoint between the dispersed sunlight of the winter solstice around December 22nd and the approaching period of more direct, straight-down sunlight of the summer solstice around June 22nd. When autumn begins around September 22nd, marking the midpoint between the June 22nd summer solstice and the upcoming winter solstice on December 22nd, it is known as the autumnal equinox. It is at this point, once again, that the length of night and day are approximately the same. How am I doing? Let me see if I can peek into the room again. Hey, Sandra Strom, Helen B., Kim, Alexandra Espinas, Dr. Jared McCullum. Unique voice, a unique name that is, as I continue to read to those who have passed through the room. The orbit, excuse me, I got to read the heading here. It perihelion and aphelion. Perihelion and aphelion. The orbit of the Earth is not perfectly circular. It is slightly elliptical, so that two sides are a bit closer together than the other two sides perpendicular to it. This moves the perfect circle you could imagine it being to something slightly more oval, though not very noticeable. When the Earth is about 1.7 times closer to the Sun than usual around January 3rd, it is said to be at perihelion. Around July 5th, when the Earth is about 1.7 times further from the Sun than usual, it is said to be at aphelion. Even though the distance measurably changes, it is said that this does not significantly affect the seasons. Even so, the intensity of sunlight does vary, which might become important in this analysis. Wow, so I haven't even gotten to the astrology yet. I'm still setting up the distance from the sun and how the seasons work. I mean, okay, so that's, I guess I did say I was going to, geophysics is in the title. You know, if you are listening to this live or in the recording and, you know, you feel like your head is hurting like a coffee addict who hasn't had some coffee in a couple of days, you know, those coffee withdrawal headaches, if that's how you feel, you did it. You came into a room that had the word geophysical as the first thing in there. What do you think? I was joking? Do you think I wasn't actually going to talk about physics? Well, physical could be, you know, exercise, but then geo, I don't know. Would seem like a strange combination of words. But then again, if you don't, you know, if you don't study geophysics or even physical fitness, right? How would you know? Moving on to the next section, it says circadian rhythms, SAD, and epigenetics. What? I wrote about epigenetics. So SAD is seasonal affective disorder, um, for those who missed acronym class, and which was just a few minutes earlier when I read seasonal affective disorder, SAD. And now we're introducing epigenetics in here. Ooh, let's see. In the geophysics summary above, I have outlined the mechanisms that cause the changes in seasons and for the variations in intensity of sunlight striking the Earth and all who live here. Did I even have to put that? All who live here? Understanding a little bit about circadian rhythms and perhaps epigenetics may offer some insight into how a person's personality might be affected by the time of year they were born. See, now this is me just going off the deep end, trying to find a geophysical reason for personality changes in astrology. That's I hope you well, I'm informing you now. That's what the attempt of this paper is or was. I don't even remember. I remember writing it. I don't remember what my conclusions. Well, I kind of do. Well, yeah, I write so much that I tend to forget. And before you forget, let's try to finish reading this. Right, it's pretty long. And if you were to go to the website HypnoAthletics.com and look at it, it's a long scroll, and I'm not even halfway down the page yet. So that you know what that means, Hakeem? Keep reading. All right, for all who live here, understanding a little bit about circadian rhythms and perhaps epigenetics may offer some insight into how a person's personality might be. Those are cool words to put right next to each other, aren't they? How a person's personality might be affected by the time of year they were born. In chronobiology, it has been observed that the sleep-awake cycles, body temperature, genetic expression, release of hormones, and other biochemicals are significantly affected by changes in the intensity of light. Circadian rhythms roughly follow a 24-hour cycle. Roughly. It's like 23 point something, right? Being born under conditions having low sunlight, a person may not have a very upbeat or energetic personality. This is because their biology would have adapted to the low energy coming from the sun and promoted a condition favorable to conservation. Since this is the case, they would not experience highs and lows as severely or noticeably as someone born under conditions having high amounts of the sun's energy. Yeah. So we're still talking about circadian, there's still physics here. I mean, now we're talking about circadian rhythm. So this is biology, seasonal affective disorder, and epigenetics. All right. Here we go. Continuing. This could be compared to the hibernation cycles of some organisms who conserve energy by dramatically slowing down their metabolism and energy consumption during the winter. The depression or lethargy is somewhat like our bodies hibernating for the winter and is not perceived as beneficial, but instead as a handicap, since we cannot go to sleep for months at a time. If we did this, perhaps it would be a coma. Instead, we just have to stay awake more often than our bodies would like and deal with it. So that's, in addition, heritable changes affecting genetic markers passed on to someone from their parents, but that have not changed the actual genes, known as epigenetics, may also be responsible. This could vary depending upon the conditions under which the parents were born and if they were unconsciously or genetically driven to seek an environment favorable to their own genetic predisposition for their own optimal sunlight needs. So do you get that? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what the heck I was talking about right there, and I figured it is that so parents, you could be born during a certain season, but your parents may have relocated to or gone someplace that had completely different weather conditions because it's favorable to conditions that they were born under. So, say for example, if your parents were born in January and you were born in June, they would seek out a cooler environment, but that wouldn't be the best for you because you were born in a sunny, warm environment and thrive and need the extra energy of the sun. So you'd be even more extra depressed, according to this highfalutin hypothesis that I'm uh, bantering around here in this here article that was, by the way, but I don't think I did it. It's not on purpose. It was published on April 1st of 2012. That's April Fool's Day, and I used it. I think I edited it for punctuation, which I don't know, it might need some more editing. And I submitted it for a bachelor's degree project, I think, something like that. Yeah, I think it was. All right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know it was for a degree program. Yes, it was a bachelor's degree for metaphysical sciences. All right. In addition, heritable changes. Oh, yep, I read that. It is also worth noting that people with darker skin will be more affected by less sunlight because of the melanin content of their skin cells. Higher amounts of sunlight are needed for darker skinned people in order to optimize their health through sunlight stimulated biological mechanisms. One example is the process by which your body synthesizes vitamin D with cholesterol sulfate. Over time, the light cycles causing changes in genetic and hormonal expression through circadian rhythm would become somewhat more programmed over the long term as an epigenetic adaptation. In the short term, seasonal affective disorder, SAD, would be experienced but not necessarily have time to lay down an epigenetic pattern because the spring and summer months would be recurring again soon. The depressive moods and feelings of SAD, seasonal affective disorder, are most probably experienced by those whose biological processes are adapted to being driven by high sunlight levels. In this case, during the winter months, their bodies would not readily increase their metabolic rate in time to deal with the decreased amount of energy from the sun. All right, next session coming up is Signs and Seasons. Michelle Celeste, Ella Richards, Ryan Cornelius, John Comfort, welcome. Welcome to Geophysical and Hypnotic Influence on Observed Astrological Correlations, the name that had to be shortened for the Halls of Wisdom. Original title being, as I scroll a million miles up the page, HypnoAthletics, Possible Geophysical and Hypnotic Influences on Observed Correlations in Astrology. All right. Wow, there's a whole list of, okay, here we go. Signs and seasons. By analyzing this summarized list of characteristics below, often attributed to the zodiac signs, it is obvious to me, at least, that the characteristics are based on the cycles of the seasons. When was that obvious to me? With spring having attributes of birth and beginnings, through summer being growth, development, and maturity. Then comes autumn with characteristics of transformation and change, through winter being death, completion, and seed formation for the new cycle. But do these traits as but do these traits, as far as a human being's personality is concerned, have anything to do with varying intensities of the sun's light? I asked the question. That's to get the reader's attention, right? To bring them back into the article. So let me ask you the question, listener. But do these traits, as far as a human being's personality is concerned, have anything to do with varying intensities of the sun's light? On vernal equinox around March 20th, the sign for Aries makes its turn on the zodiac. Aries equals start of new cycles, vitality, enthusiasm, birth. You know, this is interesting because that description reminds me of the numeral one in numerology. Hmm. I wonder. Next one. Taurus equals taking form, embodiment, down to earth, steadiness. Gemini equals curiosity, learning, cleverness, first communication. Okay, so it looks like there's three at a time, so there's 4 quarters. The astrological signs are split up here in my list. Okay, so we went from the first one was the vernal equinox. Now we're on summer solstice around June 22nd. The sign for Cancer makes its turn on the zodiac. Cancer equals nurturing, bonding, roots, emotions. Leo equals becoming, development, entering ego. Virgo, that's me, equals individual, adaptable, perfecting, functional, practical, maybe. Uh, Third quarter, on autumnal equinox around September 22nd, the sign for Libra makes its turn on the zodiac. Libra equals partnership, interdependence, harmony, social. Scorpio equals change, ego death, breaking free, transformation. Sagittarius, Sagittarius equals expansion, enlightenment, abstract, theoretical, like this paper or this blog article. On winter solstice, around December 22nd, the sign for Capricorn makes its turn on the zodiac. Capricorn equals certainty, authority, reality, discipline. Aquarius equals idealistic, unorthodox, utopian, dogmatic. Pisces equals surrender, sacrifice, dissolving, seed formation. Oh, yeah. All right. The next section is called Climate Driven Subconscious Conditioning as Hypnotic Programming. What was I thinking? Hello, Leticia Frutos. Uh, Climate Driven Subconscious Conditioning as Hypnotic Programming. All right. I shall continue reading what I wrote. An interesting idea to me is that perhaps due to the changes in the environment, a person born during a certain season would somehow develop personality traits that fit the weather patterns. Are the seasons inherently built into our psychology? Hmm. More specifically, is it because the weather has these traits that a spring baby really develops a vital and enthusiastic personality? Do summer babies really have a focus on bonding, putting down roots in maturity? Do the autumn-born tend to be more harmonious and social? And do winter births make for surrendering, authoritative, and utopian types? I have spoken to a lot of people who are convinced that astrology accurately describes who they are. I also know of some others who do not think this way, while many others are uncertain. There are also those who have explored the descriptions of their particular birth times through Chinese astrology and numerology and discovered quite conflicting personality descriptions. The fact that different geographic locations have varying sunlight, weather, and climate conditions could be one way of explaining the conflicting astrological interpretations of corresponding dates from different cultures. Because of different climates, the local religions, customs, and philosophies would ultimately have in that because of different climates, the local religions, customs, and philosophies would ultimately have been influenced by the wildlife and vegetation present. Different animals with characteristics assigned to them would make up the varying zoos or zodiacs that were pictured in patterns of stars in the sky. Through careful observation, astrologers would have accurately perceived patterns of behavior that corresponded with children being born during certain times of the year. Of course, a culture located north of the equator would have made different observations than another culture south of the equator, even though the time of year is the same. Over time, these observations would become part of the folklore and a more permanent part of the culture. As cultures expanded and became more global due to better transportation, astrological interpretations would be shared and integrated. Some ideas would be accepted, while others would conflict and be rejected. As it usually happens, many areas would tend to have a genetic majority. This group would then tend to have similar needs and responses regarding sun exposure. These ideas would not necessarily fit someone who migrated from another area with different genetic requirements. I'm halfway. Overall, the established traditions would not just give way to new interpretations easily. Oh, no, no. This is because humans are easily programmed or hypnotically influenced for good or ill. If this were understood by more people, perhaps negative habits, conditioning, and other unfavorable hypnotic influences could be corrected when necessary. Unfortunately, this is not the case, and many old ideas and traditions remain simply because they are ancient and traditional. What was once a science based on careful observation may have soon become an outdated dogma, unsuitable for continued successful application and accurate prediction of characteristics. But that would be just pure reductionist science speaking if I let it go at that. The problem with all I have just written is that it is inaccurate according to my experience. I have checked various sources for my Western astrology sign as a Virgo and found it to be accurate. The same goes for my Chinese astrology sign as a fire snake, as well as for my number 5 life path in numerology. I should change that to numeral 5 life path in numerology. The very interesting thing, if you check out all 3 of these for yourself as far as my Virgo, fire snake, and number 5 go, they are all remarkably similar. I would have thought It was because I was just being optimistic and overly accepting to find some answers for direction in my life at one time. However, the personal experiences and predictions I have made using those three systems, as well as the downfalls I have experienced when not following the advice of these divination tools, have convinced me that there is more to learn, or that there is more to them. I have found that this is not merely due to expectation or hypnotic suggestion, because I have usually checked the signs and numbers after many incidents and events I have considered significant. So I'm finding that the numbers line up with things that happen in my life, especially when I check them after. Like, for example, I'll think back to myself, oh, something happened that was significant that I'll remember. And I think to myself, oh, maybe I should check the numbers for that. When I do, it turns out to match up exactly with what was happening at the time. And I don't know, maybe I've looked at numerology so much that I programmed it into my subconscious mind, and I'm just operating off of that. All right, continuing. I am not one to just blindly, okay, I'm reading again. I am not one to just blind, if you didn't notice from my reading voice. Gosh, Hakeem, read the paragraph. I am not one to just blindly accept anything at face value for long. When I have done so, it was an experiment to see how useful something is, as I have with many different philosophies in the past. As soon as I find something is not quite right or I am being misled, I withdraw and move on. Astrology and many other divination tools may not be perfect, but they are indeed not just pseudosciences that anyone should easily dismiss because it does not fit the prevailing dogma of so-called scientific rationale. Indeed, we should find a way to take anything useful and fill our lives with that, instead of being at the mercy of anything and feeling powerless. Thank you for the follow, um, Leticia Frutos. Leticia, thanks for the follow there. Am I already following you? Am I? Nope. I'm gonna give you a follow back. Oh, I seen you before. I think I heard you speaking about something, but I didn't stick around. But hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to this wild, crazy room that I'm reading about geophysics. And I'm almost done. Thank goodness for me. I need to drink something to wet my palate and go to sleep. It's 12:48, and I've got clients at 8:30 in the morning. Well, one starting at 8:30 in the morning, so we're gonna have to bed down, or I might not. Right? All right. Indeed, we should find a way to take anything useful and fill our lives with that, instead of being at the mercy of anything and feeling powerless. Powerless. Personality traits and characteristics might have to do with a combination of these things. But what is the point to just accept the effects of the stars, moons, planets, astronomy, or astrology, or anything outside of ourselves as the final answer? It is probably more effective that we do our best to change our own stars and be the masters of our own fate. And I have the different references from National Institutes of Mental Health, Seasonal Affective Disorder. Number 2 is National Institute of General Medical Sciences on circadian rhythms. And number 3 is the United States National Library of Medicine on chronobiology from PubMed journals. And I have something in here like I'm writing some really like a journal article says, you may also read Oxford Astronomy and Geophysics, Life, the Universe, and Everything with Gaia. And also the Journal of Clinical Epigenetics. Look at me with the man. This is like a real actual article that I wrote some time ago. If it makes sense. All right. So take that, astrologers and astronomers and geophysicists and hypnotists. I just put that in your ear. So geophysical and hypnotic influences on observed astrological correlations. So, hmm, here I am, rocking like a hurricane. A hurricane. No, I didn't read anything about hurricanes in my paper. All right, so let me go to the bottom of this list here, meaning starting with the people who first joined the room. And even though you may not be here, I'm still going to say hello to Stanley Camacho, Graciela Moore. Hey, hey. I was, man, Graciela's awesome. I've been following her around on her little journey to do big things, helping people all over the world with these different projects she has going on. One of them I was just at was the fireside, and I didn't get to stick around for painting because I saw another friend here in the halls of wisdom, Mary Cara, jumping in a room, and I know that you wouldn't have been there for long, so I jumped out and went and hung out with her for a while, and and then somehow got lost looking at all you other wonderful people's stuff, and here I am reading some, you know, 10-year-old article on my website about geophysics and hypnosis and epigenetics. Oh boy. And I don't even know if I'm gonna get to go to sleep. Because guess what? Guess what I did? This is hilarious. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this, people. Guess what I drank to um to wet my throat because I was talking. Guess, just guess. Don't know. I'm not gonna tell you. Guess. Guess what I drank to people drink water. You might have drank some juice. I drank cold brew from Starbucks. Yep, that's what I drank to to get me through reading that long paper. And so now it's time to say goodbye to all my company. Dun, dun, dun. I'm not gonna sing that mouse's name. All right, everybody. Um, let me read. Let me get out of the. Oh wait, I didn't finish saying hello to everybody. Right, I stopped at Graciela Moore. I got all distracted about talking about her fireside rooms and all the other stuff she does. Jason B. Hey, Jason. Jason B. was in the house. And Jason Kinty. Sharente Carr. That's a cool name. Noble Ron. Nikita Grant. Keisha Coy. Bhupinder. Cicely Marie Goose. Monique Duell. Dr. Jared McCollum. Kim Alexandra Espinas. Helen B. You wouldn't happen to be related to Jason B., would you? No, I know. It's well, is it highly unlikely? Sandra Strom. And I just feel like reading this little thing she has. Just another fellow human, aren't we? John Comfort. Reminds me of like a pillow or something. R- Ryan Cornelius. Imagine John Comfort. John Comfort. Yeah, it really does. The word comfort. It just brings comfort to you. Ryan Cornelius. Ella Richards. Michael Celeste. I feel like I'm reading like the names off of people who won an award. Sageness Podcast. Leilani. Or is it Leilani? Leilani? Gregory Ladsman. And Letitia Frutos. And that's it. Thank you everyone for joining me for Geophysical and Hypnotic Influence on Observed Astrological Correlations from HypnoAthletics.com, where the name there is actually HypnoAthletics, possible geophysical and hypnotic influences on observed correlations in astrology. And I'm your host, Hakeem Ali-Bocas Alexander, who has a name that is almost as long as the title for this blog about astrology and other stuff that I just read to you. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll catch you on the next wave. Stay well.